I just recorded this whole video and my mic wasn't working, so drop a like, huh? My friends, what's going on? It's BenCappp here. Today we are going to be talking about Tearlaments and what cards obliterate them. So, realistically, right now, evenly matched just clears them out and leaves them to die. This card is wreaking havoc on them, and it's part of the reason why I'm making this video. On top of that, Sphere Mode does an excellent job at eliminating their board without any repercussion. Nibiru is not the same as Sphere Mode in the sense that Nibiru actually activates as a card effect, so it will trigger all your lovely Tearlaments. Even if Kaleido Heart is sent, Kaleido Heart will come right back, and you'll +1. So Nibiru not nearly as good as Sphere Mode. Sphere Mode is excellent at what it does against Tearlaments. There's really not an answer to it, of course, just like Kaijus, etc. So you really just kind of want to put 1 to 2 monsters on the board. I'll kind of talk about that a little bit more in a second. And then lastly is the Ultimate Slayer. So this card is good. This card will be good. It will be used for, I think, quite a while. You will see it a lot. This card just is an answer, man. This card is good. So in the instance you have got a Winda or Kaliga, per se, say you're playing even the Punk build and you've got a Barone on the field, they use this card, they will bounce that Winda or Kaliga, they'll send Natis and force out Barone's Omni-negate. I mean, this card does so much for a one-of card in your deck. And that being said, it's at 3 and it can be played at 3 and it's not once per turn. So I mean, this card is really, really good. So you can't respond to this card with monster effects. So you'll see in the side deck as we kind of get started here, cards that might be able to prevent, these 3 things from happening. The first one being Triple Tactics. I mean, this card is amazing right now. It should be in your main as far as I'm concerned. It does everything. Hand traps are super relevant, super important right now. So a card like this, even going first in game 2 or 3, you're either going to draw 2 cards to get closer to other things you've sided, you're gonna just look straight in your opponent's hand and get rid of the problem card. It's just that good. It's just that good right now. It's very, very good. Should be in your main, I think. Next card we're gonna talk about is Tearlaments Cryme. Cryme is the least utilized trap card out of the 3 of them for the Tearlament set. That is mainly, in my opinion, because you have to have a monster in your hand to discard or send to the grave. So it's kind of awkward. It's not really. It doesn't really fit with the whole flow of things. You really have to plan ahead for that to have a monster in hand. It doesn't, feel super great. You of course, like all the other traps, have to have a Tearlament on the board as well. So as an Omni-negate, the list of requirements grows really fast, which is appropriate for an Omni-negate, right? But it's just not as good as cards like this that they just work every time, right? This card's not going to kill you, always pays half. It's at 3. This card is really good right now, I think. I think this card will be sided going second or going first as a Tearlament player. This is something you really, really want to consider. And going back to this, I think it's good. I think it will see more play. But I just don't think it's as good as some of the other options that you might have coming forward. To be fair, it kind of pairs with the idea of not getting sphere moded. If you're kind of withdrawing some of the resources you could put on the board to save a monster in hand and use this, not get sphere moded and answer a card, it's a good option if you're kind of trying to dodge sphere mode. The next card we're going to talk about is Anti-Spell Fragrance. This card stops Dark Ruler No More, stops Ultimate Slayer, it stops everything in Yugioh that makes your opponent flip the table. This card is still good, still annoying. One thing I will say is it does not stop evenly matched, right? So I don't think it's super, super relevant for Tearlaments to be like seeking this card because your opponents are going to be siding evenly matched. I promise you. It destroys Tearlaments. So while this card is good, I don't think it's the right one to be siding right now. And that being said, on top of that, like I mentioned, Dark Ruler No More, you don't see that here. I think these are the 3 cards that hurt it the most. hurt Tearlaments that is the most. When you've got these traps set, I mean, you can get a different monster on board that's fresh, that's not negated after Dark Ruler. I mean, these cards are very good at playing and keeping yourself alive, which Dark Ruler you're not going to die anyway. So I mean, I think Dark Ruler is not the issue right now. So I don't think this card is super relevant for them. Red Reboot is at 1 for a reason. I mean, it's extremely good. It's going to just stop any trap you need to stop. It's going to stop it. And I think it pairs well with Tearlaments in the sense that the field spell, you'll be able to pop those set cards. I think if you're playing Sulliek, when your opponent summons a monster, you negate it, you do your graveyard stuff, and you bring out a Kaleido Heart. You know, a lot of the time you're shuffling the monster that's already negated. So this kind of gives you a new target, makes it feel like more plus, and you just kind of eliminate all the issues. So I think Red Reboot is very good right now. These two cards, kind of one and the same. I think it's up to preference, but I will show you a little detail about Mind Crush that I think actually might make Mind Crush worth playing, which is, I know, bizarre, right? Appointer of the Red Lotus is gonna just let you look at your opponent's hand, take the best one out of their hand, right? It's a good thing to consider. You're gonna hit one of these three. If you're not, you're just gonna take the card that does the most damage to you. And on top of that, you'll get to see your opponent's entire hand and kind of plan out what you want to stop, where you want to stop it. You know, it stops the guessing game from being in play. Mind Crush also accomplishes that same thing. Why I like Mind Crush a little bit better maybe even is because you're paying 2,000 life points for this, right? Not a huge deal, but you are. And Mind Crush, if they enter their battle phase before doing anything, you're gonna Mind Crush evenly matched. There's no reason you wouldn't call it when they enter their battle phase. You're just gonna do it. Now they've wasted their main phase, battle phase, right? It's a given telltale thing. If they're not doing that, you know they don't have evenly. Hit every card searching right now. I mean, every deck is searching right now. You've got this searches, that searches, Kid Close searching. This is just the example on the deck I'm playing now. This searches. Every deck is searching right now, and I think that you'll be able to decide on a card to hit with Mind Crush if need be. The thing that I was going to mention that's kind of unique about Mind Crush versus some of these other cards is if you really needed to and you had a Tearlament in your hand, and in the instance even maybe for some reason you guessed wrong, if you send one of these, it's triggering. It's going to activate its effect Diffuse. That being, if again it says if they don't have a copy of that card in your hand, you have to discard a random card. So if that random card is a Tearlament, I mean, they're going to trigger. So I think that's kind of interesting, you know, to consider. If you need some kind of emergency fusion, you could just call Dark Magician and then kick a Tearlament out of your hand to fuse. Just something to consider on top of the fact that I think it is a reasonable side choice here. This is definitely more for the branded players, the branded Tearlaments. I think Dragoons is something to consider again for branded Tearlaments, because it's an Omni-negate, right? So there, boom, you have an Omni-negate, whereas you didn't before. I know that Ultimate Slayer will just wreck it, right? But will it? No, it won't. I'm lying to you. Again, I do that sometimes, right? You can't target this card, so you can't Ultimate Slayer it, so that's good. I know if they Ultimate Slayer something else, they can, you know, potentially force out a negate, but you can't target it with Natis either. So this is good. I think it's a really good choice for the branded Tearlament players. I do think that branded Tearlaments are kind of like the best version of Tearlaments right now. That's my personal opinion. And on top of that, making Dragoons against like sprites even, you know, their answer to that is the spell card. You know, they can non-target banish. That's, you know, cool. So in the event that they're not forcing out a negate, or you're not getting evenly matched or something like that, you know, they're not just gonna start playing and then evenly match you. They're just gonna go to evenly match you. So that kind of answers that response, I think. And when they start playing, at the instance you're going to get outed, you know, if Jet special summoned, you kind of have to negate it. You could wait for them to use a spell card, but just hit the jet, you know, like that's their out to this card. Otherwise, they have to exceed and ram into it and bounce it. That's kind of like their only other answer. I mean, this card is extremely good. Once it's up to 4K, I mean, forget it. There are so many decks that have a problem with this card, and I think some of us have forgotten how good this is. Of course, Dark Ruler No More, like I mentioned, is going around, so yeah, you know, it's gonna happen. But it's worth considering. And if you're playing King of the Swamp, you might not even need this. But you know, Branded Fusion straight into this, it's just a 1-card Dragoon. So I would consider playing that card again. Lancea is the best quality answer, I think, to evenly matched, in the sense that you're probably going to be playing 3 of these against Flunderies anyway. Just stops all cards from being banished. It just answers evenly matched immediately. So Lancea should be in your side 100%, because you're still going to be versing Flunderies, you're going to be versing Sword Soul where it can be relevant, and you're not going to get evenly matched. You can only use this card on your opponent's turn, so that's something to remember in case they set a card. You know, you might want to keep in mind you can't answer to evenly on your turn, but this card is going to be used on your opponent's turn anyway, because it's going to probably stop them from playing in some way, and it'll just shut this option off for them. So that's kind of it, guys. You know, the meta's shaping up a little bit. People are kind of finding their answer cards to stuff, so I know some things will change, but please let me know if you have a suggestion. Please let me know if you wanted to see anything else, you had comments about anything, just ask away and we'll kind of get into it. But to recap, I think that triple tactics should be in your main. I think it's way too good not to be. This will probably see play a little bit more than it did before, but I still think that Solemn Judgement is a better answer. I don't think Anti-Spell is very good, because Tearlaments can kind of get away with getting Dark Rulered and still play. Red Reboot is very good, and these two, I think one of the two of them should be considered sided, whatever kind of you're feeling. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Let me know what you think. Thanks again for tuning in. Peace.